Hi, it's Matthew Porter, and it's time for another Drafthouse Diary for Thursday, November 3rd, 2022. But it is midnight, and it's been snowing. I'm going to do this later, indoors. Hang on a sec. Okay, that's better. It's now Friday, I'm indoors, I'm warm, I've got coffee, and I'm ready to talk about Something in the Dirt. This is a movie that I was really looking forward to. Justin Benson and Aaron Moorehead, and I will let you know that I went into this already big Benson and Moorehead fan. I really like their previous movies, Resolution, The Endless. I even liked Synchronic, though not as much, and I'll talk about that a bit later. But I was really looking forward to a new Benson and Moorehead movie. Benson and Moorehead, they make kind of Twilight Zone-y movies. You'll sometimes see their movies characterized as horror movies. And I don't know that that really fits. I never thought of them as horror movies. There can be frightening elements to them, but they're kind of esoteric mysteries of what's going on and what paranormal powers or events or situations are at play here. And they always engage me. They always make me think. They're rarely very predictable. So this is a movie that I was looking forward to. This is a movie that they began writing or conceived of during the pandemic lockdowns. That definitely influences this movie. The setup is that there are two guys, played by Benson and Moorehead, who are unlikely friends, but they meet when one of them has moved into a long vacant apartment in their building. And soon after that, they experience or witness paranormal phenomenon of some kind occurring in that apartment. So together, with dreams of millions for a Netflix documentary, they begin making a movie trying to document what they're encountering. And the rest of the story is about what they're encountering and about their friendship and how that grows, how it becomes brittle, how it is strained. And a part of that is because they each have their own different take on what's happening and their own different approach to solving the riddle, solving the mystery, and their own approaches to pursuing this documentary project, what it should be like, what are their dreams for accomplishing it. The fact that the movie, at the end, it says it's dedicated to making movies with friends, that tells you a lot about the idea of this movie. While there are a lot of similarities between this movie and other Benson and Moorehead movies, I can also mention that this movie is funny. I have seen it characterized as a science fiction comedy, which I don't know how much of it is really science fiction. I don't know to what extent the movie really is a comedy, but it can be a funny movie, and it has more lightness in it than most of the other work that I've seen them do. To talk a little bit more about Benson and Moorehead and why I like their movies and why I liked this movie, Benson and Moorehead, they always strike me as being very, very pure filmmakers. They have a vision. They almost always work together as a creative team. One or both of them will get directing credit. One of them will be the writing credit, cinematography. They'll both produce the movies. They work really hard on these movies. And they have a vision, and they pursue that vision by controlling everything they can. Of course, they get other people to work with them. But they work so hard to realize that vision on screen. And you can see that hard work on the screen. And that may seem a little bit odd, because sometimes you'll hear a definition of art in that an artist is someone who makes an important and challenging thing seem effortless. And there's some truth to that. But there's also something charming and there's something inspiring about seeing in the art the fact that someone worked really hard to achieve this art, to bring it to realization. And that's what I always see in these Benson and Moorehead movies, that they work really hard because they believe in this and they want this movie to be exactly in line with their vision. Now, of course, I can't tell whether they actually achieve that or not, but the movies themselves, as they come to us, I always find them extremely satisfying. I liked very much their movie, The Endless. That is probably on, if I was coming up with a list of my favorite movies from the last decade or so, The Endless would probably be on that list. Where on the list it would fall, I don't know, but if I start thinking about such things, that movie does come to mind. And I also liked the movie that they made before that, Resolution. The 2019 movie Synchronic, I can't say that I liked that quite as much, partly because it lacked some of the energy and some of the ambiguity that I really appreciated in Resolution and in The Endless. Synchronic was very much about explicitly making clear and explaining the rules of the paranormal things that were happening. It involves a drug that promotes time travel, and the middle of the movie is literally someone conducting science experiments with the last remaining doses of this drug and explaining to the camera that he's documenting this on exactly what the rules are as he's discovering them. It's an interesting approach, but it doesn't have, it's not enough of a mystery. It doesn't have enough engagement. The things that he discovers, none of them are shocking. A lot of them would be predictable, I think, in terms of how something like this might possibly work. So good performances in Synchronic, an interesting idea. It was a little too polished, a little too closed-ended, and I really liked the what the heck is going on here ambiguity that we see in Resolution and that we see in The Endless. Something that Benson and Moorehead understand, I think, very well, is that you can have narrative resolution. You can have a story that works toward and achieves a satisfying ending without having to explain everything that affects the story, without having to know all the rules about all of the paranormal things that might be going on. You can still leave those deliciously ambiguous while having a story that does have some kind of a finality to it. And they're getting back to that with Something in the Dirt. I was a little bit concerned after seeing Synchronic recently that they were getting into this more polished, more closed-ended approach to storytelling, but Something in the Dirt is very much a return to what I liked so much about their earlier movies. And also, as was the case with Resolution and The Endless, there are Easter eggs in the movies that indicate that these are connected in some way. They take place in some version of the same universe. Nothing you need to know in order to appreciate these. For example, the characters in the setting, the entire setting for and setup for Resolution is revisited as a vignette within The Endless, which is a movie about time travel loops and such. And the characters that Benson and Moorehead play in The Endless appeared in brief cameos by these actors, these creators, in Resolution. And here in Something in the Dirt, Benson and Moorehead are playing completely different characters. And they look shockingly different because of time, because of Justin Benson looks amazingly lean in this compared to the more muscular presence that he had in the previous movies. So they very much carry these different characters very, very well, and yet still give it the same kind of acting sensibility. So it works well whether you regard it as a sequel to The Endless or not. I like to think that these are just set in versions of a universe in which weird things happen. On my arbitrary, never-to-be-defended scale of 0 to 4 stars, I'm going to give this 4 stars. I acknowledge the fact that that is mostly because this is exactly my kind of movie. Many people wouldn't consider it quite so high, but I would think anybody for whom this genre isn't a turnoff would still give it at least a 3. So yeah, I recommend Something in the Dirt. Other things about my visit to the Alamo last night. The pre-roll. I think it was just a generic off-the-shelf pre-roll. It didn't seem connected with the movie at all. And I understand that the Alamo can't create a custom half-hour pre-roll for every single movie they show, especially one like this, which is probably not going to stick around in theaters that long. The pre-roll that I saw, it was mostly like folk music and jug bands and little dance and music numbers, and the unifying theme was chickens, so I almost expected the movie to have chickens as something going on within the movie. It didn't. It was just a random pre-roll. Oh, and there was part of a Japanese game show in the pre-roll as well, and that was interesting. The food. I had the Carnivore pizza, and I haven't had that in years, but I've liked that in the past, and it was good. The pizzas at the Alamo are generously sized personal pizzas in a nice thin crust. I tend to like thin crusts, unless I'm going for a Chicago deep dish or a big Detroit-style pan pizza. So the thin crust personal pizzas, the Alamo I like. And you can imagine what the Carnivore pizza is. There's lots of meat on it, bacon and pepperoni and all kinds of things. So that was very good. I had an iced tea. What could you say about iced tea? It was fine. And then I also had the coffee. The coffee was painful, was disappointing. Because as I've said before, it seems to me that the Alamo has figured out a solution to the problem of movie theater coffee with these great little thermal pitchers that they provide, has the right amount, keeps the coffee hot. It keeps the coffee hot if the coffee starts out hot. This coffee was served to me, and it was cold. It was ice cold. Well, it was room temperature. And if I'm ordering hot coffee, I want hot coffee. Now, I know that I tend to drink coffee at a higher temperature than many people enjoy. But even so, I don't think anybody who orders hot coffee wants it to be room temperature. So come on, Alamo, you've got all the pieces in place. You've figured out a good way to do this. It's as simple as making sure the coffee is hot when you put it in this thermal pitcher. And I know that it has to do with, when was this pot of coffee made? How attentive are the servers being, or the kitchen people being, when they are preparing this little pitcher of coffee? It shouldn't be that hard to serve hot coffee when it's hot. I mean, it was still good. Even cold, you could tell this is an interesting blend. It's flavorful. There's almost a sweetness to whatever blend of coffee they use at the Alamo, at least at the Sloan's Lake Theater. But you got to make it hot if I'm ordering hot coffee. I think next time I order coffee, and I will, of course, I am going to have to write down hot, maybe with a few underlines. I'm going to have to be that guy, just because it changes the experience so much. The staff, not much I can say about the staff, because they're consistently good. They're attentive, they're friendly, they're welcoming, they do their jobs well, the coffee thing notwithstanding. Always happy with the staff at the Alamo, and that includes the Sloan's Lake Alamo. The theater itself, as I've mentioned before, there's some maintenance that needs to be done on this theater, but it seems like that is underway. And that's good to see, because it's not the oldest theater in the area, but it's the second oldest, and it hasn't really been refurbished much since it opened, as far as I can tell. Interesting thing about the seats. The Sloan's Lake Alamo is the one theater in my area that doesn't have the reclining seats. However, I was in the back of the particular auditorium that I was in, the back row, and while they weren't reclining seats, the seats did rock back a little bit, and that bit of give made them more comfortable. So for certain auditoriums, I might opt for that back row just so that I get those slightly different seats. And I think that's all for this Drafthouse Diary. It was a good movie. It was a good visit. I enjoyed myself. And I'll be back soon with another review of a visit to the Alamo Drafthouse. In the meantime, enjoy your movies, and when you do, stay till the end of the credits.